people may think it's selfish to honor yourself first. It's not. Like, we have to be selfish to be selfless.
So let's kick off by, I guess, you sharing a little bit about who you are and how you got to be on this conscious journey of manhood.
Perfect. Look, for me, obviously growing up in the area I did, it was a very blue collar industry. I sort of grew up in an area that was an environment of coal miners, in the bush, background of like football, things like that. It was just, as a child, it was very nostalgic sort of looking back on it now. But I mean, I literally just had those sort of simple things in life. I wasn't very conscious in any way, shape, or form. My younger years was just the simple life of riding your bike with your mates, out the back with the little cars and around the tree, just playing around, leaf races in the gutters, epic when you're a kid. The small things that amuse people when you're in the bush. But for me, it was just an interesting path, I guess, into my adolescence that for me, I always sort of knew there was something there, something more that I wanted in my life. I wanted to sort of go to a deeper level of consciousness. I guess coming into that background of always being in the mines, always sort of having those guys surrounding me who were just sort of at that certain level where they were okay with being, was always sort of just where I sat. I didn't know anything different. I didn't have an understanding of what else was out there. And for me, that was just my way of life. Look, I had a pretty crazy childhood. Leading into my teenage years, I pretty much just thought partying was everything. I literally was just wanting to travel, party, just sort of get all of that out of my system, which was absolutely amazing. Like, I literally traveled to 6 of the 7 continents over the world, had an absolute ball, would never take it back. But it got to a point where I actually had a premonition when I was sort of in my mid-20s that I would absolutely settle down by age 30, start a family, and start really sort of diving deep into what I wanted out of life, finding my why and getting an understanding of who I was as not just a man, but as, an eventual husband and father. And it's crazy how the universe works, because without a word of a lie, no swearing, but I literally, come 30 exactly, I fucking had that exact thing happen. So I met my now wife. I literally got engaged, married, and child within 1 year. Basically moved continents for love at the time. So I dropped my job, basically just decided to give it a crack, so to speak, as I said at the time, which is hilarious. It's like, who would just give love a crack? But, country boy at heart. So, and yeah, by 30, literally had everything that I actually had a premonition of in my 20s. And for me, it was divine intervention at the time. It was like, I feel like the timing was right while it was shit scary. And I had no idea what I was doing when I actually decided to get married and start a family, because we were living in an entire different continent. But, it was all beautiful, because getting thrown into that journey as a father, for me, was probably one of the most massive but most beautiful learning curves of my life to date. Just for one simple reason, it literally showed me how to, I guess, step up, not just as a man, but as a father and a husband. It literally gave me an understanding of how much else there is in the world outside of sort of what I believed. And I guess the beauty in it was that it got to a point where I had to make a decision as a man and as a father and husband. Do I choose to leave the same path with the friends I have? Do I choose to stay with them and stay on their same level, their same frequency? Or do I understand that, okay, while they're my friends, they're not my sort of like forever friends? These were guys that I grew up with at school that I thought I'd be around with forever. But it got to a point where I realized that they were okay just being at that level. And hey, for them, that was beautiful. That's okay. And I was never going to be judging of that. But for me, I needed to break away from that to truly understand and be surrounded by men that wanted to evolve, men that wanted to go deep, men that wanted to actually be vulnerable and open to their feelings and sort of break away the layers and really develop a level of consciousness that I'd never experienced before. And I literally left from Mummas at the time, moved to Sunshine Coast, And once again, through just powers of the universe, I literally met an amazing bloke you now know, Blaze Brenner,
Yeah.
who I actually ended up into a circle with. It was me, him, and one other guy. And for me, that was where my journey really began. I learned to open up. I learned to not hold my emotions back. And I really started to develop relationships with men outside of just wanting to speak with them in general, go to the pub, things like that. These were deep levels of conversation with people that I never knew before in my life. And to actually sit there with them, engage with them, literally just share banter and go deep was just something that was extremely humbling. To actually have the honor to actually hold space for them as well, offer my advice as a new father, and that for guys that had just entered into that space was something that really sat deep with me. And to this day, I'm still integrating every day, still learning new ways of obviously, being a loving father, husband, to my two amazing boys. We've just entered into a new space as well, which is bloody exciting. We get to build and create new memories in our new home next year, which is fucking epic. And for me, it's just going to be a case of continuing this journey literally till the day I die. Like, I want to be a pillar for my boys. I want to be a pillar for future generations of men to come. And I want them to just be able to know that I'm always there as a rock, but also they're just in the background guiding them. Not so they're controlling them, not hovering over them, but literally just guiding them through their own journeys, knowing full well that they can always call on me. They can always rely on me to be there, to obviously ask any questions, to go deep with. And I just want them to know that they can just be vulnerable in a nutshell. I just want them to know that, because that's what it is for me. Like, for me to be a conscious man is not to just acknowledge the differences, is to put it all into action. Is to actually go deep and I guess go against the status quo of what a man is defined as. And for me, that's where I guess I can't wait to revamp what I spoke about in, I guess, the intro of who I am. And that is to go deep with fathers, really just allow them to connect in with each other, first themselves, then their children. Because, I mean, they literally are the leaders of the future, our children. So, and if we don't nurture them now, then they're not going to know how to obviously nurture future generations to come. So, yeah, that's basically me up until this point.
Thank you, brother. Oh, yum. I'm like, this is going to be so juicy. So you mentioned that you are married to your queen. So I guess the next question is, what has been the biggest standout for you relating with your queen or calling her in, as opposed to past unconscious relationships that you may have had before she came along?
For me, I guess the biggest thing would be understanding to, I guess, let go of past expectations of myself, which I would then reflect onto others, as a way to obviously sort of escape going deep on my own feelings. Because as we understand, what we perceive is what we project, and often we look to actually attack others for things that we actually have as our own shortcomings, because it's easier to actually attack outwards rather than go inwards. And for me, I did have a lot of walls up originally in my sort of younger years before I was, sort of more conscious of it. And I've used that, I guess, to my benefit to then, I guess, approach situations as best as possible as I can with my wife. When I feel triggered now these days, before, I'll admit it, I used to just fly off the handle. I'd find the easiest way to sort of avoid the situation by obviously not going deep and finding a way to sort of put the blame game on external circumstances, throwing in the this and that. And for me now, I try and, I guess, pull back before I actually say what I want to say. In the moment, sort of go, okay, will this serve me? Will this serve my queen? And, we're all human. We all still, up. We all still, fly off the handle and realize that, shit, that's going to really get me some silent treatment for like the next 10, 15 minutes. I may not be talking for the next 24 hours, but, for me, the beautiful journey in that is that I can then reflect on that. I can then go back and say, hey, look, I know that I myself up. I know that I shouldn't have done it that way. I now need to look at it from your perspective rather than this isn't the right way. It's, oh, actually, I never thought of it like that before. That's a whole new way of thinking of it. Maybe next time I should actually take your perspective into it as well and understand that, hey, there's a reason why you've reacted the way you have. So, you know, while we don't get it right all the time, I believe that as I've slowly opened up like this, it's allowed my queen to actually open up as well and slowly peel back the layers and start to understand, I guess, how to articulate our words a little bit better, how to really sit in a little bit more. And if we can't work it out in the moment there, then obviously rather than getting into a shouting match or sort of trying to one up the other person, going away, giving each other the space we need, and then actually coming back at a point where we can actually come from a place of love as opposed to a place of sort of ego, where unfortunately, because we are both pig-headed, we are both stubborn, and we know that, and we all, and my wife and me, we both don't like to lose. So it's just the most hilarious situation where it's like, cool, I'm going to try and one up you and just be an absolute a-hole, but we're learning now that we understand that that doesn't serve us.
I love
And the
that.
funny thing is, we've got to a conscious point now where before it used to take 2 or 3 or even 4 days to settle things. Now it's like less than 24 hours. And, you know, whoever may be in the wrong, whoever may not even be in the wrong, the next day, we're literally forgiving each other. It's a hug, it's a kiss. And, you know, it just happens. We get back on track because, you know, it's just, while people obviously can attack people in the moment, it's never really the real reason for it. You left the dishes out. I told you to fucking do it 6 times. You know, it's like, it's not about the dishes.
No.
It's about so much more. And it's about discovering that in the journey and understanding what really triggers it and having the conscious understanding to actually go deep with that. So then those petty things don't actually keep coming up. Find the real reason first. So,
Love
yeah.
that. Thank you. What has been the biggest obstacle you have personally overcome to allow this relationship in? And then what has been the biggest obstacle in relating in a conscious way with your queen?
For me, it would probably be self-worth. There's been a massive thing for me around self-worth my whole life. Just not giving myself enough gratitude and understanding that while I may not have got to where I want in life now, that it's not the end of the journey. It's merely just a roadblock in the stepping stones that I need to take. It's just a different path that's actually gone off. Maybe I've hit a dead end. Maybe there's, you know, a log in the road. That's literally just an indication now to me as being more conscious that that wasn't the right path to take at the time. There's a clear reason why there was a block there. Something wasn't right. Something wasn't aligning with where I wanted to go. And now I've just got to realign my path and move forward. It's taken me a long time to get to that point to understand that it's okay not to actually be where I wanted to be. Because if I was where I wanted to be, it would have been right. Clearly, it wasn't the right thing for me to do at the time. Clearly, there was bigger things for me to focus on, be it family, be it the relationship with my queen, be it work, whatever it is. So beforehand, I would honestly go into a number of just different spirals. It could be 24 hours, could be 48 hours, could be a whole week, where I would go into a lot of self-loathing, a lot of sort of pity party. I'd have sort of that, I guess, desire to obviously be felt sorry for, and obviously, you know, and sort of put that out there into the universe, hoping that, you know, I would just have all the attention brought back on me. So in a weird way, that would then actually give me that sense of self-worth. But what it was doing, in fact, was actually just creating a toxic cycle where I would literally then just be dependent on my external instead of on the internal itself, which is where I predominantly needed to be. So now I've got to a point where I can obviously understand that I can love myself first and understand, hey, look, just because I'm not where I need to be, I know 100% each day aligns as it should, and I will get to that point eventually, be it 5 years, 10 years, tomorrow, whenever it may be. So I've now got to a point where I love on myself, I love on others, and I just get to, you know, play each day as it comes.
Beautiful. Oh, I love that. Thank you.
Mm.
And what has been the biggest obstacle for you to overcome relating with your queen in a conscious way? You've mentioned around, you know, there's 2 egos and you're both very stubborn. Has that been the biggest obstacle, do you find? Or is there something else that has taken the
That's
cake?
played a big part in it. That's definitely played a big part in it, because naturally we both originally never come from very much of like a conscious background. It was very sort of, both families were very sort of, I guess, closed off emotionally. Like we didn't really sort of decide to, like, we don't really open up a lot. I've slowly started to integrate that into our relationship to try and do the best in obviously giving my wife the understanding of feeling comfortable and safe to open up in front of me and not be judged. And that's the biggest thing that I had a hurdle with, was that for me personally, I guess I never really originally gave my wife enough credit, in the sense that I would lash out, and it was kind of I guess, a hypocritical thing in the sense that I wanted her to open up, but I would then shoot down every time that she wanted to open up. And here I was saying I was conscious, but if I was clearly a conscious person, then I would have actually stopped in the moment, allowed her to elaborate, and actually more consciously listen and appreciate her point of view, as opposed to just shutting her down. So a lot of the time she would try and do it, I'd cut her down, I'd expect her to do it again, I'd cut her down, and it clearly just started to close off again and again and again, to the point where then it was really difficult. So I guess our biggest roadblock has just been finding the time to really make sure that we drop in with each other and actually honor what we're doing, and honor the journey we're on. We're just so busy in life that we obviously are, like, while we're not using excuses for, like, you know, our children or work and things like that, because everyone has that shit. Yes, I'd love there to be, you know, 28 hours in a day or 30 hours in a day, but, you know, that's not possible, and that's cool. I just think that for us, it's really just been difficult to take the time to just slow down. Take the time to slow down and gift ourselves the opportunity to really allow ourselves to drop in and just work with each other instead of against each other, because we've been polar opposites since we got together. Like, you know, I'm a very outdoorsy person, nature, like high octane, go 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 all the time. My head's like a fucking circus most of the times. It's just like literally going off like firecrackers and everything. Like I'm asleep and I'm like pitching people like for my job, or I'm like thinking about what's happening in the like next year. It's like, just slow the down, be in the present, understand. And, you know, from my wife as well, you know, she's very much nurturing, loves to be at home, that sort of mother figure, and, you know, just an absolute amazing person. But we've just had a lot of opposing views in life with everything, how we raise our children, what we want to do on the weekends, spending time with each other and not just the family as a collective. So I guess our biggest hurdle has really been just honoring the differences and celebrating the similarities to sum it all up.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I would love for you to share 3 ways you have or do support your queen.
So for me, I guess the 3 biggest ways I've found, and I guess this has come from a couple of different sort of ways that I've approached it. The first one, I believe, was one, to actually just get to know your queen. And I know that seems very vague, but I guess to elaborate is, once again, going back to the consciousness of the situation, I didn't really know how to sort of, I guess, approach each situation with, when, you know, she was triggered, or, you know, if she just really wanted some space. And quite frankly, I felt like sometimes it was like a fucking Rubik's Cube. I'm just like, I don't know how to work this shit out. I'm like too hard basket. And for me, I actually come across an amazing resource, which was David Chapman's The 5 Love Languages, which was actually a real eye-opener, and it really cracked the egg, I guess, on how I could then learn the best ways of actually showing up for my queen. So for her, it was actually through like acts of service, and sort of, I guess, more sort of really just showing her that it's not about doing the dishes. It's not about, you know, taking the trash out. Those are the things we do in daily life. It was the little things. So things like maybe, you know, just giving her a back rub or, you know, a massage without having to ask. You know, because it really takes away from it if your wife has to ask you for a massage. It's kind of like, well, shit. It's like, you know, it's not really sort of, you know, coming from a place of love. Even just things as small as like, hey, look, okay, maybe I just want to sleep in for an extra 20 minutes in the morning because I'm exhausted and I've been up with the kids all night. Or maybe saying, hey, look, I'll take the night shift, you sleep in, something like that. So for me, it's really helped to understand that while I might be exhausted, while I might sort of want to go out and like, go for a swim in the morning or go for a run, it can still be done at other times. However, she doesn't have the opportunity to actually sleep in other times. So it's that small sacrifice to make for the bigger picture of things. And, you can't take a run today, cool. Take a run when you get home from work. You might be exhausted, but hey, at least I still get the opportunity to do that. So I guess that was the biggest way, like just really understanding the queen and just really honoring that. Second one, I guess, would be, for me, this one was a bit of a harder one because I kind of sat with this one for a while. And that was, I guess, allowing her to be in her shit and not sort of chopping her down. And I guess for me, I relate it back to before when I wasn't conscious enough to actually understand why she was the way she was and just going, oh no, it's fucking crazy. Like, what the fuck's going on here? I just come home from work. Shit's fucking crazy. And it's like, in that situation, all women in general, it could be your queen, could be, mum, whoever it is. I believe myself personally, just from my own personal experience, it's just even like our children, they just need to be heard. They need to be acknowledged and understand that, while you might be getting fucking shot off at, haymakers, punches, verbal fucking, just a verbal craziness, it's not directly about you. It's not actually about you. It's about just something they need to get off their chest. And for me, even if you're a verbal punching bag, as I quoted it, it's just literally sitting there, accepting it in the moment, and then literally afterwards, something simple as just like a hug, a kiss, and literally saying, I appreciate your understanding. But how are you feeling? Like, are you feeling better? Is there anything I can do for you? Literally, or if they say, hey, look, I just need, or do you just need some space? Do you just need to sit in this right now? And literally, we'll touch base again tomorrow. Like for me, that was a big one. And, don't get me wrong, once again, I'll still make some stupid decisions. I'll still go ahead and be like, what an absolute idiot. And catch myself in the moment. But I guess that was a really, really big one for me. Third one is just, and this is obviously a really, I guess, a situational one for each woman. But I mean, for my wife, once again, as I mentioned before, she's not super big on sort of being like outdoorsy and this and that and whatever else. And sort of having that time to sort of, go for a run or a hike or whatever. But it's just, I guess, also honoring their time. Like as women, as men, as parents, we only get a limited amount of time in the day. And for me, I guess, I've had big visions. I've had goals. I've wanted to always sort of, there's been a lot of times where I wanted to put myself first because I just want to go ahead and just go. And just like, as men, we don't want to switch off. We're just very sort of, logically driven. We just, we mark off one thing. We want to go into the next. We want to go into the next. And I guess for me, it's just understanding that I've got my set goals. I've got my set understanding of what I want to achieve and how I want to achieve it. But it doesn't always have to have a time frame. Once we do release the time frame, then the expectations drop off. So it's not actually having to have that set time. Like if I get it done by this time, cool. If I don't, it's not a failure. It's gifting that time to your queen and allowing her to actually just have time to just fucking be. I actually had an amazing quote that I heard the other day, and it really actually knocked me to the core and really sort of, I guess, just enlightened me to a new level. There's a reason why we're obviously human beings, because we're human beings, not human doings. And, we always just want to do. We never give ourselves enough time to just be.
100%.
And like for me, that's why I just need to get to a point where I can actually, I guess for all the men out there that watch this, is that just allow your partners to have the time with themselves, because in doing so, maybe you want to have more time with them, and there's where the question lies in. Maybe you're triggered by that, but I guess by giving them more time and honoring that then opens them up to a different level of appreciation and understanding and love to then gift their time back to you because they've been seen and been heard.
100%. I love that you've shared that. What are the 3 ways in how you respond to your queen when she is in her emotions, deep in her shit?
Well, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Well, 3 ways that I respond, largely for myself, there is the conscious and the unconscious. I mean, obviously before I was sort of more of a conscious person, 3 ways I'd literally react would either be to fire back, it would be to literally walk away, or it would be literally to, I guess, try and win. It was a horrible way of looking at it. Like, it doesn't serve anyone. I guess for myself now, the 3 ways that I react is, 1, I'll either look to go ahead and address the situation right there, have us both sit down at a time that's appropriate. A lot of the times we'd actually have an issue where we'd try and settle things while we were active, walking around, getting dinner ready, looking after the kids, not actually really giving each other the time we deserve. So actually honoring the time right now, I'll actually address it in the moment. The second one is walking away now, but for a different reason. Not walking away because I want to just walk away because it's too hard basket, or I want to, put her off. It's to walk away and come back from a place of love and connection, and actually giving the time for us to even go away and journal our thoughts and write them all out, write all out the bad stuff that we were going to say, so it's off our chest and it's out of our system. And then the third one, I guess, how to address the situation is more so just, I guess, it was kind of like a collaboration of both of them. But for me, the other one would probably be sitting in the moment as well, like in the present, but I guess gifting ourselves the opportunity to then go away, find some different ways to address it, get an understanding of how we could better the situation for next time, and then actually coming back and then implementing that for future practices. So saying like, hey, look, okay, this time we flew off the handle a little bit. It wasn't ideal. I could see that triggered you and that frustrated you. So next time, I guess the best way to do it is, hey, look, X, Y, Z. And then coming back with that, so that we can then be conscious of it, and we can both understand where we should obviously approach it next time, as opposed to just one or the other. So it's all well and good to go ahead and just go away yourself and not communicate that with the other person. But until you both come together, you're both going to still just be firing off from what you believe is right. And at the end of the day, it's never going to serve anyone. So
love that. Next question. How do you detach yourself from her stuff and not wanting to fix her?
It's actually almost a polar opposite. And I bring this up, I guess, as a story that, I guess, if my wife watches this back, my queen, she'll probably be like, I can't believe you said this. But but quite frankly, it was actually almost from a differing perspective, that my wife is actually, as I mentioned, very much of a nurturer, has had a nurturing soul her whole life. When she was younger, she used to want to like rescue everything, pets. She was almost kind of like what you would class as like an empath. Obviously felt a lot of, sorrow and sort of sadness from a lot of people. And she's always wanted to, I guess, quintessentially in a way, fix people. Wanted to sort of, be that nurturer. And it was very much opposing roles, where I kind of felt initially she was wanting to actually rescue me, as opposed to the other way around. Because I was obviously a person that was very unsure of who I was most of my life. I really didn't have an understanding of that. And she picked up on that energy and really wanted to sort of go deep and find ways, but not being as conscious herself like me, there was really sort of unsure in how to handle it. And it would be a situation where she would say, hey, look, how can I help you? Oh, cool. Go do that, or go do it if you need to. But for me, it was so much more that I needed. It wasn't just a sense of go do that. It was more like, why do you need to do that? What is it that you could actually have from me that I could actually do to help you out? That maybe you don't need to discover yourself in other ways. Maybe you can discover yourself through our journey. And for me, in that, I guess that's where I've detached myself from her now, in the sense of when she feels triggered, or when she feels like she needs to. I'm still there as a guide. I'm still there as a rock, and wanting to obviously be able to help her in any way I can. But I've found that by trying to always help her with everything, it's been more of a burden in a way, because what it's done is actually I've sort of overstepped the mark, where I've obviously tried to rescue her, but through control, not through love. And it's been really bad in the sense that, while obviously, there is a couple of vices that, everyone has in their life, everyone has their own little things that, they sort of get, caught up in and, or fall back on during difficult times. I've always embarked on a journey where I tried to rescue her through force, through control. And in doing so, it's actually then crippled our relationship more than actually fixed it. So I've drawn back from that and said, hey, look, that's your journey. I'll be here to honor it and actually support you if you need me. And don't get me wrong, once again, there is the little devil on the shoulder that comes up and goes, just do it. Just do it. Like, fucking get in there, And it's like, and I trigger it and then it just all like goes back into a little loop again. But for me, it's just getting back, stepping back and saying, hey, look, while it's triggering me in the moment, I need to understand that by controlling the situation and trying to do that thing that, I've done before through ego, it's not going to serve the situation. As much as it's triggering, I need to understand, I just need to honor it. And it won't be forever. It will eventually come about where she feels loved enough and understood and guided enough that consciously then she'll make that decision to go, you know what, you've been there for me through thick and thin. And while you used to be like that, I've now seen the change in your ways and how amazing that sort of, being to give me the time to actually understand my journey and work through my own shit.
Yeah.
That you haven't sort of wanted to control it. Now I actually am ready to start changing. So, yeah.
Yes. So good. What are 3 ways you can help yourself and your queen when she may need to calm her tits?
For us, and these are, again, things that we still definitely need to work on, and I'm open to being open and honest about that. There's definitely things that we still need to work on and honor. For me, 3 simple ways. One is actually following through on us time.
Yes.
Actually, we talk about it, we plan it, but we fail to execute because we bring back external circumstances, not enough time. We've got the kids, no one to look after them, this and that. And for us, we're very conscious of it, but we haven't actually honored that. So, hand on my heart, I actually have a little bit of a thing that I've actually looked into. If my wife does watch this back, she's then going to hear this and now know. But I've actually got an amazing thing that I've actually discovered myself that I think is going to absolutely reinvent our entire relationship from scratch and actually gift us the time to just really not just hang out, but really connect on like an intimate, spiritual and emotional level, not just physically, but really sort of go where we've never actually gone properly. Because, before I actually labeled us at one point as more like housemates with kids, because we literally were just going through the motions and we weren't really honoring each other. And we're just, it was just sort of time was passing us by. It's Monday, now it's Tuesday, now it's Wednesday, now it's Thursday. And it was just the same routine. So that's probably the first one. Second one for me is literally, it kind of ties in with the first one, but finding time to actually just plan to it in a child. Like, we do not do it. We do not do it. And I mean, for me personally, we do it separately. We literally go ahead and build pillow forts or play Lego with the boys or, sing songs or do stupid stuff. But it's always separate. It's always separate. And for me, just because we're adults now, and I know you'd absolutely love this because I know you've absolutely loved the whole inner child sort of thing.
You know it.
For me personally, it's actually allowing us to just be children, just me and her. And it could be something as simple as literally like doing like painting and like throwing paint around or, hitting it on each other or whatever. It could be, like going for a bike ride. These nostalgic things that, you've done as a child and you just haven't, gone back to. It could be literally getting out like one of those weird dance things that you put up on YouTube and you start dancing to the things on YouTube and, bouncing around like idiots. It could be whatever it is. Like, for me, that's another big thing that we need to improve upon. But I think as couples, as parents, that you need to take time to do, because being a child doesn't stop when you come into adolescence. It doesn't. I hope to be 50, 60, 70 and still acting like an absolute child, just because everyone deserves to. And the last one, I guess, for me, and how to obviously improve us, obviously the first one was, that sort of connection, I guess, with us time. Second one was inner child. For the third one is, I guess, just playing into what each other actually loves for our love languages as well. And for me, for her, once again, it is just that time. And I know that plays back into the other ones that I already mentioned, but it's a real big one for me. For me, it is quality time is my number one thing. And often I'd get triggered because my wife would say, but we had quality time on the weekend. We were with the boys. We went down to the beach. I'm like, I appreciate that, but you're not hearing me. Like for me, I just want you to honor that time alone is not time with the kids.
Yes.
Like while we love the kids, we were there before them. And what I've always said in my life and I want to live by this till the day I die, is that children are a beautiful creation. Children are amazing, and we chose to have them in the world. So we need to honor that. We need to honor their time and appreciate it. However, you should never fit into your children's life. Your children's life should fit into yours.
Yes.
And you'll be able to honor the things you did before and have that quality time, or take your kids away and actually, spend some time with them at the park or whatever it is or whatever else, and give your queen that chance to do something that she doesn't get the opportunity to do. And while her perfect day may not involve you, that doesn't mean that she doesn't love you, and vice versa.
Yes.
Like, a lot of people's perfect days may not involve their own partners. It may not involve their kids. It may involve just literally sitting by themselves on a beach, reading a book or doing whatever. It might involve the whole family. And if it does, well, then that's perfect. If it doesn't, then we get to honor that.
Thank you. Oh, so freaking good. So what does living consciously and intentionally look like, sound like, and feel like for you?
For me, I guess living consciously, intently, looking wise, it's just, I guess, being present in the moment each day, but also, I guess, gifting yourself the time to reflect on your day and actually just truly sit in it. Feeling into, I guess, what is actually coming up each day is not a bad thing. I've gone away from the practice for myself, but I actually used to reflect on my day each day. I'd have a journal beside my table. And while I don't do it now, I just do it consciously in my thoughts. I'll sit there and I'll give myself time to actually just be. And it's just, if there's anything that's bad throughout the day, if there's anything that's triggered you, if there's anything that was a win, reflecting on that and actually just honoring it, but not actually holding on to it. So, if you have something that triggers you throughout the day, write it out, honor it, and then quite frankly, just piss it off. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to hold things there and hold on to them like it defines us. Because, if we let that thing define us, the longer we hold on to it, it becomes us. 100%. And for me, I love to celebrate the wins. However, I've found the greatest growth that I've had, and I'm sure there's going to be a little hand click coming up, because quite frankly, I've found the biggest growth that's come from the darkest times, for me personally. Yeah. And I love to celebrate the wins. Everyone needs to celebrate them. And for me, living consciously is about just creating an understanding in your environment where the good and the bad is good and bad. It's good, it's bad, it's everything. And it's okay to feel shit in a day. It's okay to feel amazing in a day. But what you perceive in your universe and your environment is then permeated out to the world. And for me, I just want to make sure that how I'm showing up each day is how I expect, my external environment to show up. So if I put out good into the world, I get good back. It's super simple, but it's super powerful. Love it. And I found, like, in my job as an example, perfect example today, I'm sitting around people that are literally, people that are having a shit day. They're walking past. I might say, hey, how we going, guys? Like, piss off, mate, all good, whatever. I literally just turn around and go, mate, you have a fantastic day, all the best. And it's literally just, that ripple effect of what that person hears, while they might have expected a negative reaction or were hoping for one because that's just what they want to sit in the moment. My objective there is to just really bring a smile and a happy moment to them, because then that ripple effect, they might pass it on to someone else, and then someone else and someone else. And it's just going to branch out to the world. And quite frankly, if I could just make at least one person smile each day, or have a bit of a giggle or whatever, then quite frankly, I'm pretty fucking happy for the day.
3 ways in which you embody living consciously and intentionally. Do you feel like that's complete?
I guess the only other one for me is largely based around the stuff I do with people like Blaze, so with the men's circles. For me, a big thing is really just, while it's good to obviously be in your own stuff and sort of, I guess, reflect on that and, you know, with your immediate family, your queen, whoever else. For me, I guess one other way in which I embody consciousness and live it sort of, you know, in the present moment is actively seeking out people that are actually going to raise me to another level. Actively seeking out environments that increase my frequency in life, and actually surrounding myself with people that want to evolve, that want to better themselves, and in turn that actually then has an effect on me where I get to share my energy with them and they share their energy with me. Collectively then we can expand that. And I guess the big thing is you don't know what you don't know, and there's a lot of people out there that quite frankly could be going through the same shit you're going through. However, you feel like it's only your problem. It defines you. It's like, no, piss off, it's only mine. I have it. Nobody else has the experience what I am. But you go to these circles, you go to these areas where you actually actively seeking consciousness, and somebody just may have the same shit you're going through. And in turn, they're like, holy fuck, I didn't want to open up before, but now this person who's just a regular dude, who's just a father like me, who I fucking, you know, might have put her on a pedestal before, actually gets what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And now I actually am free and open to accept myself, because now I can open up to someone like him who will get me. And now I can actually start on my own journey. Somebody that may have had zero interest in being conscious or open, somebody who might have been so ingrained in their own conditioning from their childhood and thought, oh, piss off, you know, it's a bunch of airy fairy bullshit, you know, in the whole terms that I used to have before. And now they're like, holy fuck, this dude is just normal. Maybe I'll actually go to these things more, and maybe I'll start to actually open myself up.
Yeah.
And from there, the ripple effect happens. Next minute, you're conscious. Then your actions are seen by your queen. Your actions are seen by your children and your children's children, and, you know, the friends that you're with. And all of a sudden, they start to understand and see a different person that they may never have seen before. And then that makes them want to change for the better.
Love it. Yes. Beautiful. So how does this differ from when you were living not yet awake, asleep, unconscious, whatever you want to call it?
For me, this was a pretty easy one to answer, only just because I've sat with this for a long time through my journey. Before, whenever I would get in a situation where I felt triggered or where I felt like I didn't understand what I was going through, I would never reach out. I would never feel as though I had the self-worth and understanding of reaching out to someone else, because I put everyone else on a pedestal. I put everyone else above me. It was like a hierarchy of confidence almost, where I would literally go, I could reach out, but I can't articulate the way I'm feeling. I don't believe they're going to want to listen to me because they're better than me. So therefore, I'll just sit in my own shit and I'll just keep on going through because I feel comfortable in this and this feels safe to me. I don't like it, but this is who I am. And I would never actually want to get further on. And it got to a point where I literally had to make a change. I had to make a conscious decision. Do I want to be this person the rest of my life, where I guess, you know, I don't know if you've ever experienced this in your life, but you'd actually feel amazing sitting in your shit. You'd feel like it was actually like, I feel safe. I want to feel bad for like the next 2, 3, 4 days, because then people will feel sorry for me and then I'll feel great for it, which is just fucking stupid because, you know, it doesn't serve you. Yeah. And for me, I just had to get to a point where I was more conscious with that, because it was just always a struggle for me to sort of honor that. I never had that self-belief. I never had that understanding of how to get through those tough moments. And at one point, it got to a point where I actually didn't want to. And that was a hard fucking thing, like, because, you know, it got to a point where I was actually going through such dark times that I literally had to ask myself, and this is probably the defining point of my life where it actually changed, where it was either, do I go down the wrong path and actually end up possibly a statistic, or do I change my ways, become a conscious man, and live the life that I've always expected, that I, you know, always wanted to live? And for me, the question I had to ask myself was, at that point, what is my purpose in life? And as a man, that is a daunting thing. It's a daunting thing for women as well, but just from, I guess, from a man's perspective, not knowing our purpose in life, because we are, creatures of habit, because we are quintessentially in our minds as a stereotype, the providers, asking yourself, what is my purpose in life? Do I even have a purpose? Is my place actually worthy in this world? And or should I give it to somebody else? Like, it was a scary, scary place to be at, but it was my defining point where the light bulb went off and said, if I don't change this now, I may not be around to even live the life I want to.
Wow. Wow. I think a lot of people can resonate with that as well. Definitely. Thank you for sharing that.
That's more than fun.
How does all of that impact on how you're able to show up for and with your queen now? I know you mentioned at the start you both weren't super conscious in the beginning. So how does that reflect differently now?
For me, the biggest thing is when I did enter into this sort of, I guess more conscious lifestyle, going to the men's circles, allowing myself to sort of be open and vulnerable. The biggest, I guess, turning curve for us now at the moment is the fact that while we both weren't conscious, while we both didn't really express our emotions, like going through this journey of stripping away, sort of, going down to the bare minimum and getting back up and really sort of just owning my shit and getting through that, it's allowed me to actually open the floodgates and really just never feel fear for showing emotion. Never feel fear for being raw in the moment. And for me personally, when I ever come across anything that I'm passionate about, it doesn't even have to be something emotional. It could be something I'm just genuinely passionate about. It could be like something that, like a men's movement that I'm doing or whatever. I tend to find that once I'm really feeling into it and I really feel the connection with it, that I will literally tear up. And for me, that's got to a point now where my wife sees that. And at first, for her, she literally was like, and not from the place of, I guess, ridicule, but she was always like, what are you crying for? Like, what are you crying for? Like, it's not even a thing to be sad about. And I would actually apologize. I would literally apologize. And I'd always kind of feel weird afterwards for why I needed to apologize for showing emotion. But I had no idea at the time because I wasn't conscious enough. So now it's got to the point where I actually had a couple of defining moments where I had opened up to my queen on multiple levels of like really deep stuff that I hadn't sort of opened up on yet. And, was literally in tears, like blubbering mess. And for her, it just showed her a whole different level as to why I opened up. And it got to a point where I guess the light bulb finally went off for her, in the sense that in the moment, not even the next day, she said, and I quote, she goes, I actually really just was surprised what happened there. She goes, I actually just really like want to honor you for what happened, because I didn't know you were going through that at the time. Like, I didn't know that it was that bad. I wish you'd opened up to me earlier. I wish you'd spoke about this earlier, because I knew that you were going through stuff, but I didn't know how to actually approach a situation. I'd always say, here's more time, here's more time, here's more time, do your stuff. And unfortunately, the blockers that I had along the path were not allowing me to get to where it was as soon as I wanted to. And then in doing so, my wife would say, look, I appreciate that you want to do this, but it's been like 6 months now. It's been a year now. Nothing's changed. Like, I can't keep giving you all this time because, unfortunately, I want to see something come out of it. And, while that was her initial reaction to it, she now understands that, I have stepped back from quite a lot of it. You'd probably know that. Like, I've stepped back from almost all of it.
Yeah.
Just because at the time it wasn't aligning. I was trying to force myself to do that because I wanted it so badly that it became almost desperation. And in doing so, she now knows that and honors the fact that, it may take a long time, but it's a situation where it's not a thing of time anymore. Time is now off the table, and she understands that it may take a long time. As long as I'm there to show up consciously for her from my boys, and I guess honor equally where I should, but still obviously honor myself first, because people may think it's selfish to honor yourself first. It's not. Like, we have to be selfish to be selfless.
Yes.
It's like, we have to, because we literally, if we don't honor ourselves first, we can't honor them.
Yes.
And it literally comes down to that, simply at the end of the day. So for me, it was just literally, I guess, getting to a point where I felt comfortable in opening up for her, and really just feeling comfortable in crying. And I've cried in front of my boys before as well on multiple occasions. I've sat down with my boy after I've obviously lost it at him and got angry at him, and then seen him start crying, and felt really shit in the moment. And sort of beforehand, I'd beat up on myself, like, what a shit father, like, you shouldn't be shouting at your kids. And I'd really take it to heart. But now, if I've ever got to a point where I've unfortunately slipped back into that patterning, what I've done is I've actually sat with him afterwards and said, hey mate, look, obviously you're not feeling great. You probably feel sad, yeah? Obviously, replying, yeah, I feel sad. Why do you feel sad? Oh, because you yelled at me, Okay, do you understand why I yelled at you? And I'll elaborate on it. And, by the end of it, I'll give him a big hug, make sure he knows that he's nurtured, make sure he feels safe. And then obviously, and then rekindle things again. And, while unfortunately kids do hold on to stuff, especially between 0 and 7 years, they will hold on to stuff. And it takes a long time for it to maybe surface later on. I'm just trying to do my best now to make sure that I can repair any damage that was made, so then he can be conscious enough to understand later on the reasons why it happened in the moment.
So part 5 is understanding your wounding. And I love that you've been weaving this in already. What is your understanding of wounding? Or if you want to call it something else.
Of wounding, yeah. For me, I guess it's I guess sort of all of the unconscious patterning that's obviously happened, probably most likely from your childhood. For me, there is a lot of deep wounding that can come from that 0 to 7 year period. And for me, I guess it's the unconscious patterning that you haven't yet discovered that does come up at those times when you're then not conscious enough to know how to actually deal with it. And for me, wounding happens on many different levels. It can happen on an emotional level, a spiritual level, even, still physically, without actually hurting you, it can happen on a physical level. And wounding to me is something that I guess a lot of men struggle to adjust to, because it seems like something that isn't just going to come natural to us to understand. A lot of people, like myself personally, from my childhood, was closed off to ever understanding what wounding, or whatever you want to call it, truly means. I just kind of felt like whenever I got hurt, whenever I sort of felt sad or felt, sort of ridiculed or whatever else, that was just the norm for me. It was just how I was meant to feel, because that's all I ever sort of knew at certain parts of my life. And it just became a part of me. It became a part of who defined me. And I just didn't really sort of know how to adjust to that until later on.
Love that. Holy. What are 3 ways wounds have shown up in your life?
Okay. For me, 3 simple ways. One would be, I guess, sort of disappointment. That's a massive one. For me, I guess it comes back to, once again, the self-worth thing. I kind of felt as though from an early age that there was just a certain level of disappointment from I guess, people I looked up to. So people that I looked up to, I was always sort of disappointing them. And there was a lot of deep wound there, in the sense that I wanted to then, I guess, show them that I was worth, show that I actually had the opportunity to be someone. And I guess that's why a lot of the times I had tended to be like the class clown or whatever it was, or sort of, trying to be that extrovert just to gain that extra sort of, validation as a human being. I guess the other one was, for me, another wounding was my own sort of sense of identity. And this was another one for me, was I didn't know that I wanted to be who I am today. I know it's kind of, I guess, an interesting one to put, but I kind of had a lot of sort of like premonitions or ideas or I had a lot of sort of weird dreams when I was younger that I had some sort of different life when I grew up. I had an understanding of like, you know, there was always going to be something different. I just had absolutely no idea what it was at the time. I did have sort of a sense of like, I guess, identity crisis where I wanted to be two different people, but the person that I wanted to be was always sort of, I guess, sitting in the shadows, sitting in the wounded, because I literally didn't sort of have an understanding of how to create that person, how to actually have value for that person. And I never wanted to sort of honor that person at the time because I literally was always sort of trying to be two different people when I was younger. I was trying to be that person that wanted to, you know, be out there and being exposed and being sort of loved by everyone. But unfortunately, then there was the other side of me that was literally always sitting there going, I don't want to put myself out there because if I do put myself out there and it fails, then I'm just going to be back at square one. So I had like this sort of sense of failure before it was even created, which was just like a toxic cycle. I guess the third one for the wounding, it was more so actually from a situation where I felt as though I needed to use my energy to actually make other people feel better because I actually didn't feel good about myself. And in that, I actually, it was kind of a weird one. I wanted to actually try and help other people of their wounds, try and help other people more of a story with, I guess, someone very close to me. And that was my mum. We're extremely close, pretty much almost like two peas in a pod. Has a lot of emotion, very much sort of a lack of, I guess, self-worth. Would tend to apologize for apologizing. Which is, you know, obviously, you know, just I love my mum for it. But yeah, it was like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I said sorry. I'm sorry I said sorry, you know, and so on and so forth. And I'd always want to try and be the rescuer. And this really plays back into later on in life, as I mentioned before with me and my wife, is that I really just felt like I needed to be there in the wounded for them because I felt we had a common trait. We had a common ground because I was already wounded. I just didn't know how badly. And I wanted to share that with someone else to just sort of, I guess, feel a sense of relief, feel a sense of sort of connection, even though it was in the worst possible way.
Oof.
But it got me to where I am today.
Yeah, 100%. What have you done to work on your wounding and have you sought help externally?
Yeah, I definitely have sought help externally. For me, I guess there's a couple of big ways that I did it. One for me personally was, I guess, just literally finding people, as I mentioned before, that I, through means that, you know, nowhere out of my own, like actually the universe provided the gift of finding people that at the right time I needed to be around. And I guess just actively seeking groups like the men's groups on the Sunshine Coast, actually speaking with people from a psychology background that were friends, other people like that. And I guess actually just not having any pre-expectations of what to think, going into it with sort of no attachment, understanding that, you know, what will happen. And for me, those two biggest sort of opportunities to actually reach out to perfect strangers and feel safe enough to share my story and my deepest shit and not be judged, for me was actually one of the most exhilarating experiences and very liberating to have that sort of understanding that someone is there not to judge me, which I felt my whole life. And just, I guess, something very close to me that I'd love to share for the men out there was a personal story that happened to me about probably, I'd say, going back a couple of months now. It was actually at one of the men's circles. Now, obviously, because it is an honor code there that we don't share anything outside of it. This is obviously a personal story about me, but I'll still obviously keep it to the details I want to share. It was basically a situation where each circle that we have, we share something that's on our hearts. Now, it could be a win. It could be, you know, something that we've struggled with for the week, whatever it may be. And this was just in a moment where we felt like we were actually, I guess, struggling with something for the week. And I guess how we were actually going to honor that. And for me, it literally was a point where I felt like I had become, I guess, slipping back into my old ways of like the angry dad and sort of slipping away from my boys even though it was only momentarily. And for me, as I spoke about that story, I became choked up. I became sort of very sad, but from a happy perspective as well, because it was releasing all of those emotions. It was sort of getting out the bad juju and actually allowing all the love in. And in that moment, once I actually spoke of that, there was, so many brothers surrounding me, so much love. I could just feel the energy flowing. I feel the positivity and the warmth. And, the boys surrounded me. They actually lifted me up. And in that moment, I was just felt on top of the world. And, obviously I know it is a situation where it is an honor code, but coming from my own space, I really wanted to deeply share that just for the brothers out there to know that it's okay to be vulnerable. And for me, it just got me to a different level where I actually then could really just go, you know what? I now understand what I need to do moving forward with my boys. And every time I've gone to get to that old behavior again, since that exact day, I've literally stopped myself ever since that day. And I can honestly.
For that too, didn't he? And honored
He
you.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful honoring and post.
And to be honest, I've never felt the energy that hit me at that point. Like I literally had pins and needles through my entire body, hand on my heart. Just that vibration and the frequency that was pouring through me from the guys, hands on me. Just the love and the attention, and it was just electric. And for me, from that point, that is sort of, I guess, one of the defining points. I've really broken through to honor myself.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. I really, I value the honor code. Stu reminds me of that all the time. But I love that you shared that. Thank you. What are 3 ways you connect in with your emotions, and how hard was that initially as a man?
I'll answer the first part. So 3 ways that I really connected with my emotions now. For me personally, 3 different ways. One is obviously just giving myself the gift of time to get out into nature. For me, nature is a huge thing for me. Yeah. It's simply one thing of maybe just getting my paddleboard, heading down to the beach, and just heading out into the water, and literally just allowing myself to just not so much wash away the negativity, but allow myself to just actually sit in the beauty of where I am, appreciate what I actually do have, and understand that, while there are things that go wrong in life, I have a lot to be bloody proud of. I have a lot to be grateful for in the country we live in the area we live in, the Sunshine Coast. And I just get to go out into nature and just, either be a kid again or just explore and just really give myself the time to just be. As I say, we're human beings, not human doings. Yes. Second one for me is, I guess the other way in which I allow myself to do it is, funnily enough, actually spending time with my family. And for me, this is a big one because a lot of the times most people would say it's things by yourself, but allowing, just things where it's simple as getting up in the morning and having that extra 10 minutes to be able to, wrestle around with the boys in bed, or, that extra 10 minutes where I can snuggle with my queen or whatever it is. For me, that actually does allow me to, I guess, once again, pull back to what I have to appreciate in life and just understand that we all get to sit in our shit. We all have our own problems, but once again, we're not the only one with them. And it allows me to just sit there and just go, hey, look, I'm bloody have a great life. While I might not be a millionaire running around with a fucking private plane or, have all these amazing things that all these other people that I look up to do, what I have, somebody else that has that might look back on me and go, fuck, this guy's got an amazing life. He's got a beautiful wife, amazing kids, loving family. And while I have all this other stuff, I actually want what he has. So it's, just putting it in a different perspective. Third one for me would be actually just allowing my time to reflect, not do anything, not be on the phone, not be, watching some sort of entrepreneurial video or some motivational thing. it's just actually being, like literally, I know I said being out in nature, but this is like just sitting and doing nothing. Just literally sitting there and just honoring my time, just reflecting on the day, and just simply giving myself time to just slow down. And we don't often do that as men, as women, as parents. We often need to please everyone else. We put everyone else first because we think that's what we have to do as parents, because that's what's ingrained in us. But gifting yourself the time to just slow down, for me, is one of my number one things. And I'm slowly honoring that more and more. And in the time, hey, look, I might journal, I might reflect on what actually came up for me, or I may not. I might not do fucking anything. And that's just as powerful for me.
Perfect. Awesome.
And for me, I guess you did mention how it was challenging before. I'll literally sum it up very quickly. I basically was just a big pain in the ass to myself. I literally would not go ahead and give myself the time because I felt as though I had to achieve everything in a day. I had to, as a man, get shit done, basically. I didn't feel as though it was fair on everyone else if I, didn't do what I had to do and get things done. And if I didn't get it done, I felt as though I was basically not honoring myself. I was like, I have to get this done. If I don't, then basically I'm just going to fucking end up falling back. I'm going to fall in behind time. I'm going to need to, put more pressure on myself. And I would just never gift myself that time to actually go, hey, look, pull up the reins. It's okay to not get everything done in a day, because guess what? There's not one day in a week. So it's okay.
Love that. So how do you understand your own triggers and take ownership for these rather than project them out onto your queen or anybody else?
For me, it's obviously just, I guess, putting it back on myself and finding out why I was triggered. What is it that's actually triggering me? Why do I feel triggered? And when I do feel triggered, what's the deeper thing behind it? And then obviously exploring that and understanding, okay, and I know it ties in to a lot of the stuff I've said before, but I'll reiterate it as much times as I need to. For me personally, it's just, there's always a deeper meaning behind it. When you sit there in reflection and you understand what it is that's really triggering you, there's always a gold nugget in every sort of moment when you sit back, sit in your shit, as uncomfortable as it is. And I guess understanding now why I've been triggered in that moment allows me to then work out better ways to actually approach it next time. It's a self-talk that I give myself saying, okay, hey, look, while this way didn't work out this time, I now know another way not to approach it next time. Rather than, oh shit, I fucked up, or oh, that was a stupid thing to do, or self-hate. It's approaching it from a self-love way and understanding that, okay, I've just found another way not to do it.
Beautiful. Love that. So what does your ego look like, sound like, and feel like for you?
Ego. For me, I guess it looks, as a sense of false self now. For me, it really, whenever I feel into the ego, I kind of feel as though I'm being sort of, I guess the best way to put it is, I'm sort of lying to myself because I know that that's not who I am anymore. And when I sort of, I guess, when it comes up consciously, I know that it's really just the lack of is trying to push its way back in. It's not even my ego. It's actually just the universe. And I've detached from my ego in the sense that it's just the universe now basically is like a mask coming back on. It's sort of like an alternate person that's actually trying to break back through and really just test the boundaries of who I am and just sort of see if the real sense of me is actually willing to sort of put through who I am to the, to the future self. And I've learned to sort of, I guess, through my NLP training and other things that I've done, to sort of, I guess, in the moment break away as like sort of a person hanging above myself and really just reflect on in the moment, do I consciously want to choose who I am right now? Do I actually want to be this person? Does this person serve me? Or am I merely just looking for a way to fall back into old habits because I'm afraid to enter another level of consciousness. And I need to make a decision at that point. Does it serve me? Okay, no, it doesn't. Do I feel as though going to this another level of consciousness is something that I can't be in? And if I feel as though there's any sort of triggers or moments there that sort of giving me sort of uncertainty, then I can address it in the moment and say, okay, what steps do I need to take to then integrate this into my new level of consciousness? What are the stepping stones rather than what are the blockers, or allowing myself to fall back into that patterning? Because at the end of the day, there's that situation where a lot of people, when they're trying to reach a goal, when they're trying to do something, they'll keep going and going and going and going just until they get to the point where they're about to make that decision. And unfortunately, a lot of people break at that point. And unfortunately, that's probably at the point where you were digging a hole to get out. You're literally one more dig and you were going to break through, and you snap.
Yeah.
And you don't know that at the time because your consciousness hasn't picked up on that yet. You haven't got to a high level of self where you can actually go, hey, look, maybe I just need to go that 1 point above my actual comfort level. And if I do, holy fuck, maybe I'll actually go ahead and reach a different level that I never expected of myself. Problem is, most people find it so scary that they don't want to do that because they're happy enough to be just at that level where they feel safe. And that's where I lived pretty much most of my life, was safe. I just sort of plateaued because I felt that if I go too far, then I would have a fear of success.
Yes.
I would have that fear of like, cool, I've got to this level. I've got everything I fucking want. What the do I do now? Am I even fucking ready for this? And if I am, how am I going to do it? Here I was back in the hole 2 seconds ago. I was digging back the other way. And now if I'm poked through, holy what do I do? And it's super scary for everyone. And I guess for me, we just need to learn to just push through. And that's where obviously I've got to myself where I just like, you know what, from now on, if it's uncomfortable, I'm just going to literally jump in, because at the end of the day, there's so many people out there that actually find that extremely, welcoming. So many people feel that inspiring. Because for me, I used to feel as though I was the worst speaker. I was like, geez, whenever I speak, it's like every second word and I can't articulate my words properly. And people are going to be like, this guy is not conscious at all. He's just jabbering on. Now I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to share my message. If people resonate with it, awesome. If they don't, still awesome.
Awesome. Love it. Love, love, love. How does your ego show up in your relationship with your queen, and how queen as opposed to coming from your heart space?
I guess for me, it is sort of somewhat a Jekyll and Hyde scenario. There is the shadow self that still does pop up from time to time. It's just obviously being conscious of who is actually speaking to my queen at the time. Is it me or is it my shadow? And for me, I guess, once again, the best part about this is, I guess, is when I actually do get called out on my own shit from my queen.
Yes.
Because in that moment, it actually then allows me to reflect on myself going, like, what a dick. At the time, that wasn't even me actually speaking, because I know I could have handled that a lot better. I know that I could have been a lot more loving, a lot more understanding. That was literally my shadow self poking its head back through and going, hey, look, let's just, have a bit of fun with this. The little devil on the shoulder saying, you know what, let's push that a little bit further. Let's just sort of see what happens with this. And once again, it takes a lot of work. And the moment that you think you've done the work is when you're fucked. Yeah. It's when you have your biggest drop off, when you fall back into your patterning, when you go to your vices, when things sort of start to go pear-shaped. And I guess for the guys that, can relate to this, it literally is a point of Jekyll and Hyde with myself. And I don't know if any other blokes resonate with that, but as men, and even women, but as men, we do often tend to have two different personalities where, we can be, all great and awesome and everything, and then just completely the opposite end. So for me, it's just being present in that moment and understanding who is literally speaking to my queen. Is it the one that's going to serve me, or is it the one that's going to put me back into old patterning and doesn't serve me?
Beautiful. And when you catch yourself, what do you choose to do when you realize you are coming from your ego, and how do you shift that?
For me, I guess it's just understanding key trigger words that have actually happened from before, things that I know that are, I guess, not the way it should it should be articulated. Things where I could actually sort of word it differently and slowing down in the moment and not sort of trying to just get a point across or trying to rush through something just to get it solved. It's actually understanding and really listening to what happened before as well as a reflection tool to use. Maybe there was something that triggered my queen in the way that I said it. My intentions were good. However, I didn't articulate it correctly. And unfortunately, that came across the wrong way. That was a massive thing for me, where I'd sit back afterwards and go, what the actual fuck? Like, I literally thought that I was doing the right thing there. I'm like, it's the whole women are from Venus, men are from Mars, or whatever it is. It's like, get it. It's like, I thought I did there. Didn't I do it? Like, pat on the back. And it's like, here's your queen walking off, storming off, or giving you silent treatment. You're an idiot. Like, I can't believe you just said that. And you're like, it's like, I don't get you. For me, it's just understanding the wording that you use. In my job specifically, there's the communication circle, and it's, the content we use is only 10%. Your tone of voice and all that is about 20%, but it's actually your body language. It's the non-verbals. It's sort of it's not how you say it. Sorry, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
100%.
That's the game changer. And for me, it's picking up on those keywords, something that might have triggered her last time, going, okay, you're just about to say it and go, hey, look, actually, I know the last time that put me in bloody hot water. I need to catch myself in the moment and go, okay, how can I reframe that to make her understand the way I'm trying to get this message across? So we both come from a place of love. We both understand it. And we're not going to obviously want to fire off at one another because the message was heard loud and clear, but from a place of love and certainty.
Do you shame yourself ever if you find that you're coming from that shadow self or that ego? And how do you prevent that from happening if you do?
I definitely have in the last probably, I'd say, good couple of months. There's been some times where I have shamed myself. And unfortunately, that's still a bit of conditioning that comes through from, I guess, a sense of self-worth again, where if I do something wrong, I'll just be like, you know what, you're basically, you're shit like that. You don't have that sense of self-worth. You're just, you're not important, and sort of getting myself down in the dumps. But unfortunately, what that's doing is it's actually feeding the hurt and making me feel comfortable in the uncomfortable, but in a bad way. And for me, it's obviously got to a point where when that does happen, although it has happened where I'd slip into it for like, it could be 24 hours, an hour, whatever, I have fallen back into like, not so much a vice in the sense that it's something that's like an addiction, but I'll find a way to sort of mirror that guilt with an external source rather than actually looking at it in the moment. I'll try and mask it with something. And, there's been times where I barely drink now these days, but there's been times where I'll like, you know what, I'm in a shit mood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get like 2, 3, 4 drinks or whatever. I'm going to put on some music, but it's not going to be happy music. It's going to be sad music. It's going to be pity party music. It's going to be music, sad lyrics and things like that, where I can validate that I'm not worth it. And I get to be happy about it because that's how I've felt before and that's who I was. But how I change that now is, I guess, in the moment, if I've got to that point, before, like I mentioned and reiterating on early on, it used to take 2, 3, 4, even 5 days, even a whole week before to actually get out of that state. Now I can actually get myself out of that state in a couple of hours, or it could be half an hour. I don't get out straight away. Reason why is because if I do, I'm not honoring that time as well.
Yes.
I still need to sit in it. I still need to sit in it and appreciate it for what it is, because it's happened for a reason. And if we can't learn to actually appreciate our shadow self, because we still need to appreciate the shadow self. It's what's got us to the point where we are now. It's got us to understand our shortcomings and the things that we needed to work on. And I'll sit in it for a little bit, but then I'll get back out of it straight away. I'll flick a switch and go, you know what? Now I need to go do something to then honor that. Maybe it's, just hanging out, putting on some fun music for a moment, dancing around like a dickhead in the room, something like that. Maybe it's, going for a walk, a run, whatever it is.
Love it.
But we need to appreciate both of them. I never want to see anyone just go, I'm a dickhead, this and that, cool. Now I have to just get straight out of that. Otherwise, I'm going to fall back into it. Because then we never really understand why we're in there in the first place.
What is the best advice you have ever received in regards to relating with your queen or preparing for her?
I guess the best piece of advice I've probably ever received for me would be, I guess the biggest thing would be removing expectations so you can live a journey together. And I guess to elaborate on that is your journey is your journey, her journey is her journey. While you two want to help each other, you need to obviously understand that you drop the expectations, the journey is so much better. And I guess to bring it all together from the very start, lack of self-worth at the start brought me to a place where I felt like I needed to control everything, because then I would actually have a sense of worth. By removing that sense of control and expectation, it then allows me and my queen to actually then connect on a level that never would have actually existed had I have not been conscious enough to have seen the change that needed to happen from within, which would then actually allow her to want to seek change herself without prior expectations.
Yes. Leading by example. Love it.
Leading by example.
Thank you for saying yes and being a part of this journey.
I'm deeply honored, to be honest. Deeply honored to be able to share my journey, and hopefully, just resonates with all the men out there, the women out there, and just parents in general. And hopefully, they get something out of this. And if the only one thing they get out of it is that we just need to love unto ourselves, to love unto others, is that'd be perfect.